Hi Staycationers, it's Marilyn here. My turn to do a presentation for you, and today I'm going to show you how to stamp with your blocks and use a bit of watercoloring with them, some spritzer, just kind of a neat background technique that I've enjoyed using over the last few days. And I wanted to make sure that I showed you all the steps, so I've got a few things laid out. I'm going to show you a number of cards that I've done. The hardest part of this is waiting for things to dry. So bear with me as we go on to the next piece. I'm going to turn the camera over and you'll be able to see my desktop and what we're going to work on. Now you can see my setup for doing the background of these cards. I have my cardstock attached with painter's tape to a piece of cardboard so that I can stamp it and then let it dry, and it will hopefully not warp or crinkle or whatever you want to call it. I have my two different size stamps that I want to use, and I have some ink pads. And to begin with, I'm going to do one with browns. I have got one with blues and one with autumn colors. And I'm just going to take my stamp pad. I'm going to just stamp the block. I've cleaned these blocks, by the way, with hand sanitizer and a paper towel. I find it works quite well. I get to stamp it, and if need be, I could stamp in two different colors. It might muddy my stamp pads, so I'm not going to do that right now. And then I have the spritzer with an arrow on it to indicate where the spray is going to come out. And I'm just going to spritz it on there, but I'm not going to do it over my work because I have trouble enough keeping it straight, never mind. So it has quite a bit of ink on it, and I'm just going to stamp with it. You can see the ink spreading around. And of course have a paper towel close by. And for me that's just a bit much, so I'm going to use my paper towel to going to take a little bit of that off of there. So that was crumb cake. And I'm going to go with Sahara sand with the same size block, and not quite so much water on this one. And I'm going to just overlap it a little bit, because what I'm doing is making a background. The paper I'm using for these is our shimmer white. I love the shimmery effect of it. So that was my Sahara sand. So the brown family, but just a little bit different. And then I have soft suede. And for that one, I'm going to use a smaller block, quite a bit darker. And making my background. So as I do these, I'm looking at what kind of image do I want to put over it? What colors do I want on this particular one? As I see it, I'm probably going to use something like a gold embossing powder. Would look great on that one. My next colors, I'm going to start with the pumpkin pie and my larger block again. And you can see all the beautiful colors on there. This one's definitely going to be a fall one. And if you wanted it lighter, you could certainly use more water on it. Just would have to be careful that it doesn't run off before you get the block turned over. Then I'm going to use Mango Melody. So just a different way to use using your tools that you already have and getting more mileage out of them instead of using these always for putting your stamps on. This is a kind of a bonus, and sometimes we want a background that is just colorful, not necessarily with detail in it like some of the stamps make or some of the embossing folders make. So, and then for my last color I have Poppy Parade. And that one, this time, I'm going to put in the middle to kind of connect all of them. So you can see how you can have a background of whatever colors you want. Whether you're working with fall colors, kind of an earthy tone, and last but not least, of course, we're in that season, is our blues. I have Night of Navy, which I think I'm going to leave the little one for that one. I have Misty Moonlight. That one, as you can see, is pretty dark on its own. And Balmy Blue. So again, just choices of blue that I like using. Try some different directions. And as you often find with these kind of techniques, you'll never have two the same, which is either good or bad, whatever works for you. And my last but not least is my Night of Navy. I'm thinking that one might have a silver design on it when I'm done with it, but we'll see. So that's the three that I have picked out. Thinking maybe while I've got everything here, how do we do one in the purple shades? So I have Fresh Freesia, which is one of our new in colors. Then I'm going to do Highland Heather, which I can do over here. I'm going to do that one here. And then, last but not least, I'm going to use Gorgeous Grape. And if you didn't want the watercolor look, you could certainly try just stamping with the blocks. Oh, wow. That one kind of got away on me. We'll see what it looks like when it dries. I do believe that when they dry, they will be a little bit lighter in color. So let's try. I'm just going to move those now and bring in my stamping pierce mat, which has been well used, as you can see. And this time I'm just going to stamp with the blocks themselves. And you can get the idea of something else you can do with your blocks. So you don't need a lot of blocks. You could have one or two of these and create some gorgeous backgrounds. To begin with, I will show you what I'm going to make. This card has a bit of dry embossing, a bit of stamping with a block, and is actually quite easy to put together. So let's get started by showing you the stamp set that I'm going to use is Welcoming Woods. You can see a variety of fonts for your script, a variety of greetings, whether it's best wishes for a birthday and anniversary, good luck on your new adventure, a birthday. Every season brings its own wonder. To me, that screams our seasons that we have. Celebrate, thank you, hello. We have some snowflakes, we have some falling leaves. Now we also need, for this technique, we do need some paper towel. We need some ink, and I'm going to use Balmy Blue and Basic Gray. We need our block that I'm going to stamp with. We need a spritzer, and just in case I forget to mention it when I'm doing it, I do have it marked where it sprays so that I can try and not spray my face. I'm going to use this to lay my paper in to spray it so I don't get it all over my work surface. Once I've got it stamped and I'm happy with it, I am going to run it through the embossing folder with the bark. Because I've got trees, I thought bark would be a great fit for that. And the way the stamp set works with the trees here, and this is the ground that fits in behind the trees. So I have set those up on my Stamparatus. So I'm going to use those to get everything lined up. So let's get started by stamping our focal point. So to begin with, I am going to use the Stamparatus. I guess I really didn't need that mat in there. The Stamparatus is a great tool. If you don't have one, I'll just explain it a little bit. It has, or even if you do have one and need information, and wasn't very wise. It comes with 2 plates, and you have 2 sides to those, so you have quite a bit of flexibility. You can place them this way, or you can flip it, however works for you. I like mine this way. You can do what's called hinge stamping, which if you have words that you want to space evenly down a card, like down here, you would stamp once, then you would move this down one, stamp again. So kind of a neat feature there. So for this one, I believe these are my marks. I usually mark on my grid paper where I want my trees to be. Those are down too far because I want to stamp my greeting at the bottom. So a little bit of setup happening. Obviously, didn't make the right marks. That's better. Because my greeting I'm going to put on this one is good luck on your new adventure. And it's going to go just down here at the bottom. So I have magnets. There's 2 magnets come with it, and you don't want them to get together because they will break. So before I stamp my tree, I do have to stamp my background with the block. And to do that, I'm just inking my block. And I'm going to set it in here and spray it so that I kind of contain the spray. And just a couple like that, like you don't need tons of water on it. And then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to just give it some color on the background. And there's my background of Balmy Blue. You can see if you look at the one I did here, it's a different intensity, but it will all work the same. The trees I'm going to do in basic gray because to me they look like birch trees, and birch trees are kind of white and basic gray. So I like to, I'm going to use my Stamparatus, place a stamp case underneath it, and then ink it. What we call upside down. And because I'm using the Stamparatus, if I need to stamp it more than once, I certainly can do that because it will be lined up perfectly. And obviously, need to try that 2 or 3 times, or maybe need to re-ink my stamp pad. And still a little bit on this one, but they do look like birch trees there. I'm just going to do that a little bit extra. So you can see why a Stamparatus is invaluable for doing something like this. And there, I'm happy with that. So now I can remove that one, just because I'm kind of limited in space here. And I want to ink up my ground layer. And for this, I am going to just use the same color. You could, if you were doing, I don't know, different seasons And yes, I do have ink there, but it shouldn't come off. And if I get this in the camera, you can see how it lines up all around the trees here. And gives you your background. So, again, I'm going to take that off because I'm trying not to get ink where I don't want it. I'm just going to stamp my greeting. And if I wanted to, I could have put that on the other side of one of those plates from the Stamparatus. And then if I needed to stamp it 2 or 3 times, I could have. So after I do that, I am working on, and I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but this is the shimmer paper that we have. And I found for using like a watercolor background, that really does the trick best because it's a little bit, I don't think it's that much heavier paper, but it does take to watercoloring very well. So I'm going to bring in my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine, and I'm going to use our birch embossing folder, which, just to show you, this is a piece of the, I think it's darker than crumb cake, soft suede, showing you that it really does look like bark. So I'm going to take my design and pop it in there. There is a line across here to line things up. Always put the fold towards the machine. And then I need plates, 2 plates 3s. I have one designated for cutting edge, so I use it on the bottom. Oh, and as I'm reading my label, it says plate 4, so I need a different plate for that one. It's a thicker embossing folder, so just on your machine, your plate 4, and run it through. One thing to remember if you're using the cut and emboss is if it's hard going through, don't force it. Use whatever works with your machine. Each machine is a little different. And there we have our background embossing. Now all we need to do is put our card together, which will include folding our 8.5 by 5.5 cardstock. Black layer always makes things pop. And as you can see, I did not have that cut the right size, so I'm going to do that now. It was the same size as my black, and that just doesn't work. Maybe that's why the Stamparatus didn't line up right. There, now there's a black layer behind it. So I will put those together, and I like to use liquid glue on anything that's embossed like this because it gets in the grooves. And then I also like to burnish mine on the back side like this. I will use my dimensionals to pop this on the card base. And we will have all except our... Now to go to the inside layer, I'm going to add a layer of white on the inside. This one is cut at 5 1/4 by 4, and just for a bit of interest, I'm going to put a batch of snowflakes along the bottom, like that. So that stamp is one from that set as well. And just because I have my liquid glue here, I will use it on this layer as well. You could certainly use Stamp and Seal, or Snail if you still have some, or your favorite adhesive, whatever it might be. So that just gives a bit of interest along there. And then for the embellishments on it, I have chosen to take some of our rhinestones and color them with our blends. So you can do that right while they're on the paper. And this, because it's the Balmy Blue that I'm using, it's not going to add much to it, but it does color. And they do color, like if you use the darker colors, probably Night of Navy would have worked on that one even. But this is what I have for now. And as most of us like to do, I'm only going to put 3 of them. They're going to add some glimmer. And there's my card. So suggestions are that if you're going to make a number of Christmas cards the same, this would be ideal, or birthday cards, whatever you're going to make, because you can set it up on the Stamparatus and you can just go again and again and again and again. And like I said, the longest thing would be waiting, but you noticed on this I didn't wait long at all for the ink to dry on that. So now I'm just going to set those up top and show you some others that I have made using the blocks and the ink refills and the ink pads. So this is one done just with ink and spritzed with water on watercolor paper. There's another one done with our water brushes and the ink refills. Then I get into some more with that tree set, and these are done with blends at the background, so you can see a variety again of what can be done. A fall one, and like I say, I love those words. They just appear to be screaming, look at me for a season. I have done one on black with white embossing and then colored it with our pastels. Added a bit of vellum and ribbon and a different word set. This is one that I did do stamping with the blocks, and then I did 3 different colors: Night of Navy, Misty Moonlight, and Balmy Blue. Then I cut it apart, put it on the card front, and then stamped the trees, so you can see the trees come in between. So I thought that was a neat technique. Now we get into just stamping with different sized blocks in different colors. These are Pumpkin Pie, Poppy Parade, and Mango Melody. More of a fall theme with the browns, and that one, again, different words from a different set, but you can combine whatever you have, whatever fits in those spots. So I'm going to say soft suede Sahara Sand and Crumb Cake. And then I went into the purples, and again, different size blocks, different placement. Did this coloring on the Dragonfly with my blends, punched it out, did the stamping here, and cut it out with the stitched rectangles. I'm trying to think what they were called. These are ones that are done with these, and this one. This is a different design again, where I did my stamping with the blocks, with the misting, with the water, and then after it was dry, I added some embossed Christmas trees, so made definitely a Christmas one. So those are ones done with the dried, like after it's dried overnight papers. So lots of different suggestions for you to create with your blocks. You don't have to have a lot of tools, just a clear block and whatever size. You could do lots of the little ones. So then I went and decided I would do one with just the block and the ink pad, no water. And that's what that one came out like. So hopefully that has given you some ways to use what you have and have fun.